Hey, Sean, how's it going?
It's going well tonight. Yourself?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited to talk Legion tonight. We got
It's
we got a lot of cool questions that have come in. We're gonna just be all over the place tonight, just chatting, spitballing, and it should be fun. How you doing?
I'm doing well. More importantly, you got some eyeballs we can see tonight. So
Yeah,
Joe's transition from the shades to the eyewear. I like it. I like the look too. So
thanks.
I feel like you've really stepped up the academy feel here. So
Yeah, I'm just really trying to go full
yeah,
full teacher here,
we'll get you some
full scholar.
tape for the center of those things,
Yeah,
and just tape the side, even if it's not broken. Just fix that up a little bit. Nice. No, that's awesome. No, I had a really good day today. So just had a busy day. My wife got a new car, so we were doing kind of like the shuttling back and forth and getting all that taken care of. So with the new car came a need to clean the garage. So I had to clean an extra spot out in the garage. So been a lot of work, but no school right now, so a little bit more time to focus on hobby things and all things like that. So I've been doing a bunch of TTS real late. My days are getting. I already don't sleep, so I'm like finishing up some TTS games. Like I think I finished around like 2:30 last night, and
ooh,
then up at 6:30 with baby, and the days just roll one into the other. So I mean, who needs sleep? It's overrated at best anyway. So yeah,
yeah, for sure. I mean, you probably upped your tea consumption a little bit, right? Get that caffeine going.
got
There
it
you
right.
go.
You can't get more Canadian than a Tim Hortons on stream. So and I have no shame either. So
Yeah, hey, go for it. Man, I'm excited because so this Friday is going to be the day when my new 3D printer comes in the mail.
nice, nice.
And man, this will be printer number four. I currently own one, but this will be the fourth one that I've ever owned.
Yep.
It's a simple one. It's an Ender 3 Pro. It's really inexpensive. I got it for $209 shipped, so I really couldn't argue with that price. That's why I ended up buying it. I currently have a CR10S made by the same company, and I hate it. So I knew I would hate the Ender, but for $200, man, I feel like I can make a couple of tables before it breaks.
Nice.
That's all. I haven't printed anything in like over 6 months, and I'm just like ready to start printing out some new stuff and get some different terrain going over here. So
Cool.
I'm fired up about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was last week a little bit guilt shamed into to getting some more terrain for Friday night fights. So ironically, I was guilted by one of the guys that paints for me in the studio. So I mean, it was a little bit of down home shame. So so this week I've been really busy and knocking out some prints,
Mhm.
not printing but painting prints. So I got some right here. I was just telling Joe that I've been using a really quick technique. It takes about 15 minutes to do a building. So like I got this guy basically from I think he was red when we started,
Nice.
right up into this look here, and then it's going to be winterized into this look here. So
Awesome.
I got about 15 or 16 buildings I need to do like this. We'll throw it on the winter mat, and then we'll have some Friday night fights stuff going on. So we do have a Friday night fight coming up this week as well. We'll have Sean's actually. So after stream, we had a quite a lengthy conversation about all the. It's that on stream pressure. It's the nuances of doing all the things that camera needs, like hey, roll over here or wait here, remember this, and so he's looking for some validation, some vindication this week as he's going to take on a friend of his who he has historically, he said, struggled against. So we may see a little bit
Okay.
of like a little bit of rivalry play out on stream this week. So I'm looking forward to that. So not sure on lists yet, but I think one will be droids. Hoping for that. So yeah, so look for that this Friday, and then we got a bunch of weeks lined up in a row. So it's I mean, nice thing about COVID and taking a pause, we kind of like it's like pinching a garden hose. We sort of built up all that pressure that people want to get all out at once. So we'll have subsequently a bunch of weeks lined up here of good Friday night fights. So and
Nice.
hopefully people like the 800 point format. I enjoyed it. It just gave a little bit more to look at and a little bit more fun on camera. So we'll be doing that again this week.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely come hang out.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's good, and we're gonna look for co-casters and fun casters because it'd be nice. We can even facilitate. I like to play occasionally, and so if I jump off and we put Joe and somebody else, even if you're piping in from halfway around the world, that's perfectly fine. So we'll do that. How about you, Joe? Anything else on the hobby front? I got a tank I'm gonna show here because I finished that up as well, but. What about you? Any assembly or anything? Or
I have everything assembled now from the current releases, like Cassian and stuff. I haven't painted them yet.
okay,
I think I'm gonna try to paint. If we can get a third caster this weekend or on a Friday night, I think I might try to paint vital assets while I'm casting,
okay,
just to get it done.
okay.
I want to have that done at the very least. So
Sure. I'm gonna put
yeah,
that. I'm gonna put that right in chat here. So open casting call for Friday night fights. What are we gonna call it? Streamers? There we go. All
yeah,
right. Awesome. Um, you said getting stuff in the mail. Check this out. Oh,
yes.
finally. So all those people who thought that we were like hoarding these tokens, literally sent at the start of June, arrived today. I picked it up like an hour before the show. I have all the Canadian ones, which probably sat at customs forever, all here, all boxed up, ready to go. So Canadian folks, of which most of you are local to me here, expect those. And Joe's got them all nicely or conveniently divided here for me, so we'll get those out. So yeah, so I mean, seemingly I'm fairly close to Joe in Canada here. It usually doesn't take long to get stuff, and took 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just a thing. But I'm excited. I will say they look good. They're nice and hefty. I showed my wife, and she's like, "Oh, I wonder what I could do with those." Which I promptly said, "Nothing." Um, they're staying down here in the studio. They're not for other uses. But yeah, no, they look good, and I'm happy to get them, and I'll be more happy to get them out to the Canadians. So, and
For sure.
international folks, just a shout out if you haven't listened to the other episodes. I know a few people have messaged this week. But literally, people are messaging us, and then like the next day saying, "Oh, got them." So they're seemingly arriving. Many have arrived already, but I think there's maybe just a few kind of trickling through. So, like I said, I just got mine, and that was a 6 week
Mhm.
leg getting here. So, so just look for those. Please contact us though if you haven't got them or if there's a question, we'll answer. But make sure you contact us through the page. So. Um, Okay, Nicholas has got a question in chat. Nicholas, I will come back to that just because we got some more housekeeping to get through. But thanks for the question, and please fire them into the chat all night here. So, I was going to say, Joe, yeah, because you were saying you were going to vital assets assembly.
Mhm.
I
I
I
got it assembled. I just want to paint it
paint.
now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I assembled two AATs this week, so that's fun. But of which none were this one. So this is actually number 3 for me. And I got it done up in the snow theme here. So I'd already showed Joe this. Let me see if it'll focus. There we go. Yeah, I've got some stuff going on. Little droid falling in the top hatch here. So really going for that World War II, real cold feel. So yeah, that's kind of the theme of the army. So I got to do 2 more like that. I think what I'm going to do is invert the camo, and so go mostly dark, and then do a light camo scheme there. So yeah, there we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah, working out all
Looks
right.
awesome.
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
7 layers to get it to this. So just painstakingly painting through. So I know why I don't paint because it takes me too long. It just takes.
If there's one thing Sean knows how to do, it's meticulously paint shades of gray.
I mean, it's no lie. I mean, the 50 Shades of Grey joke does stand. I do love gray. It's my favorite color to paint in. So look for that line of paints coming out. Gray, more gray, just gray, another gray, and check out that Shades of Gray. So
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Let's talk. Hey, let's talk about Legion games. Or
oh,
do we have many more
yeah,
housekeeping to get through?
no. Let's swap over. I'm going to
All
swap
right.
over here to you and I hanging out side by side. So so tell us about all the games that you've played, Joe.
Well, I have not played a game this week. I'm not
Fair,
gonna lie.
fair. We are getting
Still can't technically drive, so
right.
I'm kind of stuck at the house. And if I don't play TTS, I'm really probably not gonna play. And I didn't really get any TTS games in this week, but I heard about your bombing run game, and I want to hear more about it.
Yeah, for sure. So we're actually going to talk specifically about the bombing run mission, but let me just talk generically about TTS for me this week, and then we'll just slide right over. We got a drop for that anyway. So, um, yeah. So I have continued on my path here, TTS games, getting in maybe like 4 a week right now.
Nice.
I think I played my list around. I think game 20. I think I want to say 24 or 25 was played last night. So, yeah, really liking it. Getting a little bit smoother at the TTS. I see people who do cool tricks, so I try to pick up like one or two new like button click thing a day. So, getting a bit quicker at it as well. So that's good. And playing a lot of people. Like I've played a few people twice now, just because it seemingly people are on kind of the same time slot as I'm available. Um, yeah, I mean, primarily I'm winning the bid almost every time, so I'm really playing a lot of my missions, and I have a real affinity for the vital assets missions. So um, we'll probably revisit vital assets in the future. We did talk about that, but man, there's some fun missions in there. I really do like them. I also like how it's sort of made me look at the game a little bit different. I akin the old missions and the new missions to being drastically different. So I really felt
Yeah.
like the old missions um, were a little bit more late game play and a little bit more setup for the end game. And I find the new assets missions are a lot more like early and sort of more aggressive style missions. You know, with hostage exchange and the bombing run play where you really have to set up 3 turns worth of bombing. And you know, some of the deployments even like rollout and not meeting engagement, but hemmed in. Some of those really kind of force those early engagements. So I like what the two sets have done. So
Man, hemmed in could be brutally aggressive. It's like my favorite deployment, because I like to play those aggressive lists,
right.
and it's like you could get Dooku in by turn 2 and just start chopping stuff up, no problem. Average game length on TTS. I'll go first.
Yep.
3+ hours, I would say. However, most of the time when I play on TTS, I play Paul Watson. I would say like 80% of the time that I actually play TTS, I play him. And sometimes we'll just end a game after like 3 or 4 rounds, just because the way we play is a little different. We're not necessarily playing to win, we're playing to test stuff. So we don't always need a full game to get that information.
No, that makes sense.
Hmm.
I haven't really kept track. I would probably say I'm probably in that realm. Some games have been kind of like called early, and then some games have been played right out late. And like the game I played last night, I don't think it was overly long, but man, it had so many things going on. I'll talk specifically about that game here very soon. So. I did just want to talk about a little bit about the community of TTS because again I'm unfamiliar, so I'm probably just telling people things they already know. But one thing that I've really noticed is that people are super helpful, and that casual play back and forth of like, and it's not that people are missing a lot of stuff, but it's like, oh hey, this you know I forgot to flip this over, or hey, do you mind if I put my tokens over here to keep it a little bit cleaner? Typically, I would want
Right.
tokens like visible where I can see them. There's a lot more like I the nuances of clicking and falling. It's like, yeah, we know what your intent is there. You know, that guy that's flipped upside down or can't quite sit here, even though he could. You kind of leave that stuff. So I kind of like that. So in a way, the meticulous sort of clicking is sort of mitigated by people being a little bit more friendly with the positioning. I will
Hmm.
say tanks on TTS right now have just fits moving around and resting and landing places because you can't quite catch the physicality of that. The AATs are really hard to see the base. You can't even see it underneath the front. So, but people are fantastic with it. So
Hmm.
I do like that. And there's a lot more like, I feel like in a real game when somebody like, 6 saves against me, I'm less like energetic with them. Like, oh man, excellent roll, because you're always playing in that
Yeah.
competitive nature, right? I don't want you to 6 save against me. I want you to blank out 6 times. I'm going to be quite honest. But
Hmm.
on TTS, there's a little bit more of like shared celebration, if you will. It's like, oh my god, did you see that? Like the other night, I
Yeah.
rolled. I had 4 droids, and I was like, whatever. I'll take a pot shot at your tank. I rolled 2 crits, and I had an aim, and I was like, and I just rolled my other 2 whites, and I like four critted with 4 droids. I'm just I'm just like, I feel bad about that. In a real game, I'd be like real stoked, but I'd be
Like,
stoic about it. Yeah,
why can't this happen in LVO?
exactly. I'd have to remain stoic, but but on TTS, it's like facial expressions mean nothing, so you kind of have to verbalize or express yourself in some sort of audible tone. So yeah, I find there's a lot more camaraderie in the TTS games. So um,
That's cool.
yeah, what's Mike saying here in chat? And sorry guys, I can't seem to. Oh, I think it's because there we go. I can't seem to bring those up. 30 minutes per game turn I found is average. The full games are about 3 hours. They can cut early. Read the rest here. Depending on how the game goes, I've had 4 turn win in a little over an hour. I think my opponent rolled 2 successful saves all game. Well, that's
Yikes.
a way to make friends.
Yeah, I mean, nothing you could really do about that.
No, there's not.
Right.
I often say this about my list with the droids. The expected results of saves are 0, and the expected hit results with 6 blank or 6 naked ones is also roughly 0. So any result I have to be ecstatic about, and any fail I can't feel bad about. So now my other units, my tank and Grievous, a little bit different story, but B1s die and B1s don't hit, and so I'm pretty good with that. So, and I have to feel
I
well.
had I had John Griffin 2-shot an AAT of mine one time with a Vader saber throw and an ATST shot. I just like didn't save once. It's like, okay, so apparently my red saves are 0%, not 50%. All right. Just took it off the table and was like, I'm not going to win this game. It's like turn 2 and I don't have my focus piece pretty much. Like,
Yeah. Yep, that
it
happened.
happens.
I mean, we saw that Friday Night Fights. You know, Vader opens up with a 3 blank, and then basically what we have, like, who went down there first? Well, Cassian went down to 1 wound. K2SO died. 2 RTs died without even firing a shot, and still there was a game to be had. So sometimes those early things can be mitigated, and sometimes when you lose your AAT turn 2, it's just all over. I'll tell you right now, I would rather lose things early and know it's going to be a game turn 6 than have that slow grind to death. And
that's true.
I hate it, but I have this thing. I can't concede, and I got to play it out because it's a dice game in the end. But when the math starts stacking up against you, it just gets tough. So cool. All right. Well, let's slide over. That's not where Joe is. Let me pop Joe here, and let me pop me there, and get rid of that. There we go. All right. I have, just FYI, pre-show, I have to put myself on the camera twice so that I know where Joe's going to appear, and so that's why you just saw 2 of me there. So I thought tonight, because I had earlier conversation with Joe about Bombing Run, and said I played a fantastic game, like super fun. Tons of like rules that we were looking up, not because it was like an argument, but we just had to like verify, and really looked like I had the early lead. Then turn 4, it started to look bad for me. Turn 5 completely up in the air, and turn 6 was like basically a series of events that had to go one of 2 ways for me. Lucked out in the end, not to spoil it for you, lucked out in the end. However, that does the game no justification. So I'll talk about that specifically. But let's bring up Bombing Run just in case you guys are unfamiliar with the Bombing Run card. So I'll maybe read that, Joe, because it's probably a bit small for you, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bombing Run, it's the setup, or during setup. After the deploy unit step, starting with the blue player, each player places 3 claimed objective tokens in base contact with a friendly unit leaders that are within the player's deployment zone. Each unit cannot have more than 1 claimed objective token. Each trooper gains claim as an action, and all units gain the free drop action. Basically, you're flipping one of your claimed objective tokens to its unclaimed side. At the end of the activation phase, each player may detonate 1 unclaimed objective token that was flipped to its unclaimed side with the drop ability by the unit they control. Victory condition is at the end of the game, basically, or sorry, during the game when you deploy or detonate rather one token within range one. So it doesn't have to be fully within, but within range one of the player's deployment zone. You can gain one victory token. So inside or within is how that specifically reads. And the bomb's brutal. 3 red dice, blast, suppressive, surge, crit. And so it does a lot of damage. However, the damage is not how you're scoring points. The act of detonating is.
Right.
So go ahead.
Although, man, a suppressive bomb really doesn't do anything to help your opponent be able to move around the board quickly. You know? So it's the explosion is definitely not to be taken for granted. But so okay, I like this objective. I know, Sean, you've been playing it a lot. You said you really like it, and let's talk about some of the weird nuances that came up during your game around just some of the text on this card, because it actually wasn't something that I ever thought about until you brought it up. So I thought it was really interesting about scouting and whatnot. So let's talk about that.
Sure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about this card in the context of 2 games because I played it back-to-back nights. And this is one of those things where rules interpretation or just card text, how it can be interpreted by my 2 different opponents as well as myself. So my first game that I played, not the one I'm going to talk about, but my first game, I was playing Empire player, 11 activation list versus my 9 activation, and we played advanced positions. So in advanced positions, old deployment, trooper units get scout. Well, he happened to have 11 trooper units. So the very first unit that he deployed was a sniper unit at the top of the L, and he kept it in and he didn't scout it out. I think he was a little bit worried about my tanks and range. So no problem. Now the next 7 activations that he deployed, he scouted all of them out.
Okay.
So and I didn't want to say anything because again, when you're playing, not to not say anything to assume he doesn't know, but I didn't want to be that kind of person like, well, you better hold something back because if you don't, you can't hold the bomb. I just assumed that was his play. Now, when he got down to his 9th activation to deploy, he was putting it down and started to measure. And I just said, just so you're aware, I don't want you to put the next 3 units out potentially, because if you do, you're not going to have anything to start with the bomb. And so then we went to the card. So this brings us to the card text here. After the deploy unit step, so you've already deployed, and when you deploy, you can recon. And so when you recon out, and you're out of your deployment zone, the next part of this is starting with the blue player. Each player places 3 claimed objective tokens in base contact with a friendly unit leader that are within the deployment zone. So the moment you leave the deployment zone, you don't satisfy that condition. So my concern for that opponent was, hey, you're going to have to leave I guess your bomb would stay inside your deployment zone, I guess wherever you want it, or maybe you just don't get to deploy a bomb on your guys.
Yeah, so that's where it gets kind of strange to me, because what is the ruling on that? And I don't even know where to find this in the RRG, because I'm looking in the RRG and there's a section for bomb carts, which is for payload.
Well, how about this?
There's not. I don't see a section for the bomb objective.
Do you think it would default to, like, in key positions, or like where, like, when you can't place an objective token and then you just end up not being able to place that, like there's that ruling around, I think it's key positions. I want to say key positions, or maybe it's is it recover? Maybe it's recover. One of them specifically, I think, references, like, if you can't place it, then the token just doesn't appear, and somebody can maybe give us reference. So I just don't know here, because it says that's what you do. Now, if you read it, each unit cannot have more than 1 claimed. You place 3 claimed objective tokens in base contact. There's nothing about may, And so maybe that means that it just simply goes there. But where does it go and who does it get attached to? I don't know. The bottom line is I wanted my opponent not to do that. So what ended up happening, though, is he had Veers, Death Troopers, and Iden because he held them.
Okay.
And then that became his bomb carriers. Probably, I would guess, not his three choices for bomb carriers. So that was one of the lessons learned right there. So good opportunity to learn and teach. Rollout is a mission that I have to pay attention to because rollout, where you can deploy your vehicles range one outside your deployment zone, I like to put my bombs on my tanks, obviously. And so I can't put them in a rollout position with a bomb either.
Okay.
So that's kind of an important thing to note there. So let's fast forward a little bit to the game that I played last night. So that wasn't an issue. My opponent didn't have any vehicles. He placed his bombs accordingly. He was well aware. He did have some veterans with Scout, with Recon Intel, and he also had the ability to place the Mark IIs, obviously off of that with the detachment keyword. None of those were bomb carriers. So he went, his bomb carriers went to K2SO, who is, by the way, a fantastic bomb carrier. Why?
Mm-hmm.
You can't shoot him. He just carries that bomb until you get to range 1. So that's a fantastic bomb carrier. He also placed it on Luke. Luke's scary, so a guy who's scary and has a bomb is even scarier. And then he placed it on a rebel trooper unit that was kind of bulked out. They had a medic and they had a heavy weapon, so it was just a big unit to carry bombs. I went with mine on tank, and Grievous, which is standard for me. Grievous because I'm usually trying to torpedo, around that turn 4. Tanks because they're just mobile, and of course they're heavy wound sinks. And when the bomb goes off, if I put it right, I'm less scary about the surge crit. So basically it's a 1 in 4 chance on the red dice to hurt the tank. And if I drop it in the front, I'm not worried about the weak point rear kind of thing. So they're my best way to get it there, the fastest way, because my other option is naked droids. So we played out the game. It was very, like I said, very, very cagey. I moved up 1 tank aggressively with Grievous, and I swung a bunch of troopers that way. I left another tank kind of home base, and he played Pathfinders last night with Bistan and Ion. So I had not run into Ion in 25 games, but I don't think Ion's there. I'm not going to advocate for people taking a bunch of Ion. However, if we see a meta shift to more heavies, more droid players, I'm going to think there's a case to bring an Ion or 2. And I'm not sure how you feel about that, Joe.
I think we could very easily see a shift to more heavies and more droid players. And I think bringing Ion in the factions that have access to like somewhat affordable Ion should probably consider taking it. I think Pathfinders are like the perfect source for bringing Ion.
Yep.
The one thing I hate about Ion in general, across like every single unit that it's been designed for that I can recall, is it's exhaustible.
Yes.
And that just makes the unit really inefficient, in my opinion, and makes you rely on, I don't know. It's like if you don't have like Veers has a nice way to get around having exhaustible cards in your army because of his 3-pip, but most factions don't really have like easy access to like the refresh action or whatever, and it's just like kind of suboptimal to exhaust or to like untap your Ion and exhaust it again over and over because you're not aiming. It's like, I don't know. So that's my big problem with it. I think more or less it's probably better to just take critical or impact instead than Ion. But man, if you're playing a rebel player that has a bunch of Ion in their list and you're a droid player, like you're gonna have a bad time. I mean,
yeah. Well, and so one of the things that he had in his list is he actually had Cassian. So Cassian does have his 3-pip there, volunteer mission. I was just checking the name there, and so that is a recover card there. And the nice thing about that is when he had Luke Skywalker as well, 2 force powers. And so when I got Luke in rough shape, he was able to issue that, get the Pathfinders back up with a free recover. Luke was able to recover, so that's a pretty powerful card. Cassian's got a little bit to offer in terms of some of those other units that, like you said, they don't really have that innate ability to recover without spending an action. So,
Hmm.
um, so like I was saying about bombing run is one of those things that, let's say key positions, you can plan for end game. You're going to push that center objective. You're going to kind of hold back and kind of get that turn 6 claim. Bombing run is a little bit different because you can only drop one bomb, and if you want to get the full 3 points, you're dropping a bomb in 4, 5, and 6. Now we played Long March, so Long March puts you, a good solid 2 turns worth of movement, like double moving from the end zone anyway. You got that big expanse across the middle. So we were aggressively moving. He double moved, I think, every single unit turn 1.
Okay.
I moved both tanks turn 1,
Hmm.
um, and I double moved 1. Um, the droids on my hand swung behind my tank, and I used it kind of as a mobile cover, and I pushed Grievous up. So that was kind of like my turn 1-2 play. He came down the lower end of the table as far away as possible with K2, which I couldn't get to and couldn't shoot. He
Hmm.
pushed the middle with his rebels that had the bomb, and he pushed Luke in the middle. I pushed the top edge with Tank and Grievous, and I left one tank at the home base. Now, my intent was to leave the bomb in a way where I can have one droid unit in base contact that I could clamber a building and get that bomb if needed, and then
Hmm.
take it back down with me. So that was the plan anyway. So we get around turn 4. His K2 is turn 5 away from basically. Sorry, his K2 is turn 4 away from just dropping. My Grievous is in his lines, kind of blendering up. I went to my 1 pip on turn 4. My tank's on the top side pressing. So my plan is to do Grievous in 4, tank in 5, and I wasn't going to be able to get my other bomb off my tank out, but I was gonna try to hold it and just make sure that it never got off. My Grievous was holding up his rebels, and I ended up making him drop a bomb there. So I felt pretty good with the 2 versus 2. So things started going a little bit south for me, though. He ended up Pathfinders and Luke ended up taking out my tank, which had the bomb. So now I had a bomb on top of a building, basically near Luke,
Hmm.
and Luke had a bomb himself.
Hmm.
So his K2 dropped the bomb. He's up 1-0. Um, his Luke also drops a bomb. He's up. Well, he dropped the bomb, and this is one of the lessons that happens. He dropped the bomb in turn 5. However,
Hmm.
I actually had a droid unit, and I moved and picked up the bomb that he dropped because I was up on
Mm.
activations early on him. And so
Yeah.
it really came down to if he holds it, he's probably not getting off it anyway. And he wanted to drop his bomb off, get mine, and then drop that on turn 6. But he had to make a
Hmm.
hard choice, so he dropped it. So I took it, knowing that I wouldn't be able to hold it. But I figured if I take it, that's an action where he has to kill me, and then an action to pick it up. And so he
Hmm.
was burning actions there. Um, so when he did that, which is precisely what he did, I had managed to get my tank bomb off on turn 5. So it was basically 1-1, and he had a bomb in his control. Now
Okay.
he detonated it in turn 5, but when he did that, he hit his K2, he hit his Luke, and he ended up taking out 2 activations of my droids. So good trade because I wasn't able to kind of snag that bomb back in. But what ended up happening was I got so stretched out. I had to AI attack with both of them,
Yep.
but I gave each of his K2 and his Luke suppression, knowing that I was gonna have that bomb go off and give them another 2 each.
Hmm.
So now he has a Luke with 3 suppression, a K2 with 3 suppression, and he's gonna have to make some roll offs to get actions.
Right.
Um, my droids were in the middle. I left 3 droid units in the middle, in addition to the 3 that I lost. I lost 1 earlier, and then I had lost another 2. So I was down to 3 droids, Grievous, and a tank. He had K2, Luke, 2 Pathfinders left, Cassian, a Mark II, Rebels, and Veterans. So I actually took him down activations and then went down myself.
Yeah.
Grievous went in and did his thing, killed off some stuff, and then made them drop a bomb. So then we get down to turn 6. I have my bomb off, and now it's a play of, okay, who can get to the bombs first? Who can pick them up? Who can block? So what I ended up doing, this is where it kind of came situationally. I got the proper draw. So what I did with my droids was I moved a droid unit back and I clambered up the building. And I had dropped the bomb on the edge, like I said, from the very get-go with the tank. And although I wasn't able to claim the bomb, I was able to encircle the bomb. So his Luke couldn't jump up and just make straight base contact. He would have to jump, he would have to swing, and even if he killed all my droids, he'd be unable to pick it up because it's that claim action. Now, the issue being is that he still had force push on board when he dropped volunteer mission. So the play is move up, force push out, and then just move and make contact with the bomb himself. Because I wouldn't be surrounding it. So what ended up happening, though, is he didn't pull his Luke quick enough, and I put 2 layers of droids surrounding the bomb.
I've done that.
Yes.
I've done that on VAPs to deny people.
So yeah. I fully insulated that bomb in the fact that like he couldn't move to push me out. Now, of course, we're back and forth this whole time. So what does he do? Well, he moves his K2 over. I didn't realize there was a ladder on this building, so we got a free scale. So now his K2's on top of the building. Because I was thinking, okay, well, K2 moves to the building, then he's got to spend a clamber. He's on the edge. Oh, there's a ladder there. So scroll around all the buildings, folks. So he gets to the top, and now his K2 is... so he did that on turn 5. And so... I was like, insulate on turn 5. I know what Luke's going to do. Luke can't do this. So I got to double insulate. What I did, though, is I double insulated, and then I moved a guy to then tie up K2. So now K2 is tied to a disengage action. Well, if he's disengaging, he can't claim. Luke can't jump, push, and claim. So I basically insulated that bomb. That prevented him from getting a 3rd point. However, on the other side of the table, I'm still left with 1 point and trying to figure out how I'm going to get, because even if I scored the 2nd bomb, I'm down on points at this point, which was quite scary. So I had to kill 2 activations and drop a bomb, all with Grievous. So I managed to find a point where I could double move to kill his rebels. I blendered his last 3, dropped the bomb off, and he had a Mark II that I put a tank shot into and couldn't kill, which is a problem.
That hurts. Yeah, that hurts.
Sounds like an eWeb story. And my tank is sitting there with 1 wound left. He has to kill my tank and have me not kill 2 units and have me do all the things I did on the other side of the table to lose this game. Basically, it was mine till I had to do a lot of stuff. So I secured one side. I managed to get Grievous to drop the bomb. He puts in a fire-supported Cassian aimed shot into my tank and manages to get no critical or no crits.
Ouch.
Yes. He didn't get to the range 2. He didn't take the move to get the tactical, the trigger, to have that second aim where he could have, obviously switched something up. So he got no crits. My tank lives on 1. The bomb goes off, kills his Mark II by 1 wound, secures me the point game by 32 points.
Wow. That's insane, man.
We were grinding from turn 4. We were like mathing out everything. So some of the stuff that came up in that game, and sorry to make a long story, but it was fantastic. It was really, I was describing it as a joke today. It was an absolute fun and a pleasure to play, because it made me think. It wasn't like aim shoot, double move. It was a ton of like technical, like I never clambered so much in a game.
Hmm.
He didn't realize that units drop objectives when they panic, so that was important, because he chose not to recover that unit, which he probably should have. That sort of
Right.
stuff. Not taking for granted ion. I let the ion hit me one turn. I managed to clear it, and then instead of moving one more in the right direction to just make that bomb a foregone conclusion that even if you got to it, you wouldn't be able to get it. I chose to stay, so that was a mistake
Hmm.
that I should have moved off, underestimating the power of Ion. Um, he did a really clever thing. He moved in, and I had set up a droid chain from basically one side of the table to the other. But he moves in, and K2 has comms jammer,
Yeah.
cuts off three of my droids. That
K2 with comms jammer is pretty awesome.
Yeah, cut off three of my droids,
Yeah.
made me have to AI attack with three late game. The last thing I wanted to do
Hmm.
was spend an action aiming. I wanted to pick up a bomb. So that's why
Hmm.
I had to revert to clambering, instead of like just moving and like just climbing or going to doing safe routes. So
Hmm.
yeah, just a ton of cool stuff. We talked about the repulsor rules because they came up. Repulsor versus when it's considered a ground vehicle, what it can fly over, what it can't. He didn't realize that it could go over so many things. It's pretty impressive what it can move over. Yeah, just a ton of fun, and it was like, co-learning or remembering things and just combing through the rule book. Remember how thick the RRG is when you're looking for something, how many cross references you have to make. So yeah,
Oh
super
yeah. I
super
was
enjoyable.
actually while you were telling that story, I was looking up the rules for objective tokens because I was trying to get some clarity on the deployment zone thing.
Right.
And so even under the objective tokens section, it makes reference to bombing run essentially. It has some blue text and it talks about the drop action and whatnot. So it does acknowledge that new objective and there's some new bullet points, but there's literally still not a bullet point about what happens if your entire army scouts and nothing's in the deployment zone. And I straight up think that after reading through every single one of these bullets, you just burn those three objective tokens.
Well, that would be a quick way to
Like, yeah, I don't think they start like unclaimed in the deployment zone or anything. It's they're just literally not in the game.
right.
So that's yeah.
Kyle, so I 100% agree, Kyle. Like I said, I've been playing several bombing run games as of late, and uh, it's not a game where you can decide turn three what your game plan is. If you haven't set up your runs, um, you're in rough shape. I actually, the game before that, I was telling Joe I played a bombing run game. I never fired a shot with my AATs for the first three turns.
Mhm.
I just moved, secured the points, and then was content to take up firing positions for the last three. Those are the turns that my opponent needs to have things living and things moving to the objective. So I know he's moving and I need to move myself. And so I played the objective from the get-go, even though I have two real big blasty things. Shooting a bunch of stuff when other things can just pick it up and continue is not a path to victory. Um,
Yeah.
and another thing that I had told Joe, one of my strategies, is I like to use Grievous for a couple turns to move the bomb, and then I actually drop the bomb, and then I send Grievous in, and then I let my other units pick it up and kind of carry on, almost like laying down the baton in a relay race.
Hmm.
I let the droids finish up, but I don't want to send the droids out first. Because they may drop it in a least advantageous position when they just get one shotted. So you really got to make
Yeah,
sure.
there's so many interesting ways in bombing run to bait your opponent into coming out of position by doing some of those more advanced like drop claim things. You're like, all right, I'm going to put it on this big power piece and I'm going to put them out in the open. And then you might want to just go all in on, like, let's say you're Grievous. And then all of a sudden, Grievous drops the bomb, ducks behind a building. And they're like, wait, what happened? I just pulled all these units out. Now your B1s are shooting at them or your tanks or something. Like maybe they wanted to keep their units hidden early and you baited them with some freebie Grievous shots that they thought they were going to be able to take. They don't kill Grievous. Now all of a sudden, those activations that expose themselves to shoot Grievous get picked apart. there's a lot of really weird, interesting plays you can do, especially with bombing run where you're like dropping the objective and picking it back up with different units and stuff.
I,
I think there's going to be some like high level competitive strategy there that'll develop over time.
I will tell you this, and I'm not going to claim this as anything super high level. I didn't learn this from anybody, but I'm going to tell you, I don't run the Annihilator on my Grievous. But I will tell you, when you can last first with Grievous, double move, drop the bomb, and then just detonate it at the end of the activation, it's better than an Annihilator shot. Because if I can get that bomb to hit 2 or 3 units, Grievous is only going to take one. He's going to take 3 red dice. However, I run endurance on my Grievous, so I clear those 2 suppression at the end of the turn, but everybody else doesn't. And so then when I can first the next turn, I move into my melee, and then at the end I do the end around shooting. Some of the units that are around there, the 3 or 4 units, they're starting their activations with 3 suppression each or more.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a fantastic last first. Now, I am dedicating 1 point to doing that, so there is a definite risk reward there. However, the potential to kill when you go 3 dice, double blender, and then 4 dice end around shot against everyone, the potential to kill activations and just get up to an insurmountable lead at that point is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
man, I'm thinking already too, there's going to be some crazy stuff that like Grievous Cad Bane lists can do with some bombing run synergies, right? Like
yep.
you go in, you drop a bomb with Cad Bane, you teleport away, blow everything up, or like you dish off a bunch of suppression, then blow up a bomb, then blow up your bomb. You know, they're like, who knows what kind of stuff you could see out there. Yeah, that's gonna be really cool. The potential to just suddenly suppress the crap out of someone's army is definitely there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that the suppressive attack followed by his own suppressive attack followed by the potential to double barrage with 2 AATs. I mean, you can have a unit with 7 or 8 suppression, no question, before it ever activates.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the things too, is that I've noticed like the suppressive gun line last year was such a meta thing for Empire that a lot of people they had plans for it, right? They either built Veer's lists so that they can recover, or they had like Leia Inspire and like a generic officer Inspire,
strict orders, all that stuff.
Strict orders, all that stuff. And I think like going forward, I've seen kind of less. Like I haven't seen Leia be as prevalent recently. No. Cassian, he has a command card that allows you to recover, but he doesn't have Inspire. So, man, the potential to like find yourself super suppressed with some of these newer like CIS lists and stuff. I don't know if people are always building encounters for that kind of stuff all the time. So.
Yeah, I think what I like about bombing run for my particular army, and there's lots that are good. Like I said, K2 is an amazing guy to take a bomb. I don't think R2 is a bad bomb carrier either. Now R2's slow, but the potential to any time that you can score 2 points off a play is quite good. Especially if you were to do that blast off last turn, which is typical, and you speed him up. And if you were able to drop that bomb off your first move and then speed 2 away to safety or over something, then there's potential that he's not even going to eat that bomb and die or anything like that. So, and I mean, if you got a full health R2, he's not dying on 3 red dice, no matter how good you roll. So, there's...
It gets weird with R2 because going for the double score could potentially kill yourself. Like, and then you lose secret mission, right? Yep. Like, what if you blow yourself up with your own bombing run bomb because you had to get it in?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? It's that risk reward. I think this is my math on bombing run. I think that you need to go early for 2. I don't think you need to do 3, but I think
Hmm.
your secondary objective in this one is to make sure that you can stop at least one of their bombs. And if you can't stop one of their
Okay.
bombs, if you cannot stop one of their bombs, then you better make sure you get your third one off, because you play this balance. Like last night, I was confident that I was up in activations, which gets me the points lead, but I knew I couldn't stop K2.
Hmm.
So now I know I need one at least to tie and stay up on points. Then I went down on bombs. Okay, I think I can tie on bombs. But then I was down on points. So I have to play this like
Right.
back and forth where I need to stop, press, and control the point game. And obviously, my opponent's doing the exact same thing, right? You have to mitigate that stuff. I'd probably say the most I guess pivotal decision that I made was Luke was in the center of the table, and Grievous was in the center of the table. They couldn't be more open. They were within within range 2 of each other. He plays Son of Skywalker, and I play Grievous as 1 pip.
Okay.
I won the roll off. I had a decision. Do I hit his veteran Mark IIs and Rebels all together and get closer to where I need to have the bomb? Do I move out and kill Luke and potentially have Luke drop his bomb where he is, but now my bomb's also there? And ultimately the decision I made was I needed to kill more points. I needed the bomb closer. And honestly, if I got into Luke, Luke could just force push Grievous out and move past me anyway. So I made the decision to go deep with Grievous, and it ended up being the right decision. But turn 4, making a decision that basically determined the final activation on turn 6, and that. And I'm not saying I'm a genius for all the forethought or anything, but I'm just saying that I had to be thinking about turn 6 last activation at the start of turn 4, effectively at the end of turn
Yeah.
3 when I made the decision to play that card. And I think my opponent was
Hmm.
doing the exact same thing there. So I think if I lose that roll off, I lose the game, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that game was cagey, back and forth, a ton of fun because it was so intense, but never felt contentious at any point, and never felt like it was anything but a super fun game to be played. So really felt good
Cool.
about that. So yeah, that's my long redux. I rarely give reduxes of games, but that game I think was worthy to talk about. So do you want to swap over to some speculation, some rumors, some audience questions?
Yeah, definitely. So, it's been a little stale in terms of the Legion news lately because we're kind of just sitting here waiting for the end of July when we get the Gen Con live in-flight report, FFG stream. And we know we're probably going to see the same kind of stuff we see every year. We'll see several units previewed. We'll see several units that have already been previewed get their full spoilers. I'm looking at you, Clan Ren and Inferno Squad, hopefully, because I know a lot of people are like, what are the stats? I just want to play them, right? So we know we're going to be getting a lot of news here in a couple weeks, but so right now it's kind of this lull. So we thought we would do some speculating, take some audience questions tonight. We spent some time talking about the games, but let's talk about future stuff and what we'd like to see and what we hope to see and what you guys want to see, and we'll just jump into it.
Let me just quickly say, since you said Clan Ren, everything that I said about Bombing Run, if Clan Ren comes out to be speed 3, scout
Hmm.
double speed 3 move, bomb first turn, yikes! Look out for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So right off the bat, if Clan Ren gets any sort of like traditional Mando profile, watch out R2.
Totally,
Like,
like, yeah, forget the bomb on R2. That's no longer a thing. Even the
right.
K2 thing. Why can't they be at range 1 and just engage him in melee quickly? Um,
Hmm.
yeah, speedy units change Bombing Run. I mean, look at Staps. What are Staps going to do for Bombing Run?
Or Tauntauns. I mean, have you got against a Tauntaun list on Bombing Run yet?
Yeah, but I run double
I
AAT,
I know,
so
I know.
Tauntauns don't do well.
Hey, you might not be afraid of it, but there's still definitely a threat against a lot of lists,
What's that line?
right? So
You won't make it past the first marker. That's dumb.
Barrage.
Exactly. Yeah. High
What are
velocity. Thank you.
dodge tokens? All
Yeah,
right.
you don't need these. Okay, let's drop the questions in no particular order. Mind you, I think we got five, but audience folks that are watching there in chat, if you have questions, please fire them up, and I will revisit Nicholas, who I have good memory and are reminded of that question there. Okay, so first one. This one comes to us from Tyler. He says, team events and grand armies. Why pre-COVID do you think there are so few team events? And what are your personal pros and cons to team games and grand army games? First off, Joe, let me ask you this. Ever played a grand army game yet?
I have. I
Okay.
have. I played a 1600 point four-player game. And okay, now let me give a couple caveats here. This is year one of Legion that I did that. We scheduled a day to get together at the game store, four of us. Now, this is long before any of us were nearly as experienced in the game as we are now. So I'll say this: that 1600 point game took like 8 hours.
Mm,
Uh, and I think we like went out for lunch next door, like in the middle of it and put it on pause. But the whole day from start to finish was like an 8 hour ordeal. It took like an hour and a half plus just to deploy like 1600 points on each side.
right.
So, and again, much less experience. This is like 2.5 years ago.
Hmm.
So that was kind of that was the turning point for me where I was like, Grand Army games are amazing, but I don't want to do them all the time. And I've
Yep.
never really revisited them since outside of LVO. And I wouldn't call it a Grand Army. It was more of like just a team event, right?
Right. Yep.
It was an 800 point two versus two,
Yep.
which I think definitely lends itself a little bit better to like a day of gaming or like a little mini tournament.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think that's why you probably don't really see Grand Army events is just because, if a standard game of Legion on a clock gets 2.5 hours for game time plus like a 15-minute extension, what does a Grand Army need? 5 hour rounds?
Yep.
It's like what you get 2 rounds in a day. It's kind
Yep.
of hard to make that an event, right? Like it's more like a one-off.
Yeah. I,
I think they're awesome. I mean, I love putting like 4 ATSTs on the table, but it's a lot. It's a
right.
lot.
I mean, I bought three AATs for the distinct possibility that Grand Army can happen. So I look forward to it. The only like Grand Army, and I can't even remember the format, but there was a on Sunday at Gen Con. It's kind of like a team event, and I forget how many points you get. I want to say maybe it's full 800. Jason and I actually played Ryan, and I think who did we play? Ryan and I forget who played. It wasn't Tim. The name escapes me, but we played. We
Ben,
played.
Ben maybe?
No, it
Was it
wasn't.
Ben?
It wasn't Ben because I played Ben and Ryan both at Gen Con in singles, but it wasn't Tim. Geez, it'll come to me. But we played them. All I remember is Sabine's explosions when it went off and was able to hit 11 activations, which never happens in real Legion. But it's just one of those things that happens. Now his Sabine also had I think like 11 plus suppression 3 or 4 turns in a row that he managed to keep her on the table as well, which also doesn't happen. So there's a few things that I think Legion just straight rules just maybe don't quite lend themselves to, and I think for some people it's a little bit too removed from the
Yeah.
standard 800 play. So that's just kind of going to the answer of why we might not see that. I think Joe hit it on the head with the time. If you give me a choice, if you say, hey, you can play 5 games of skirmish in a game day, you can play 3 800 or 1 Grand Army. Um, Grand Army is going to be the least of my concern there. 5 skirmish sounds fantastic because I like playing people and I like kind of going through the pace and the quickness of that. 800 at 3 a day, it becomes a little bit of a grind. And so I find sometimes your third game can be a little less enjoyable for a variety of reasons.
Hmm.
Nothing to do with your opponent typically. So, but I find with skirmish, it's a really quick reset. I also find with skirmish too, if you have a bad game to start, your day's not kind of decided.
Hmm.
In an 800 point game, you probably can decide that your day's over. You're not probably advancing, and then Grand Army could just go bad from the start. But if, like I said, if you know you got 5 hours of slow, painful death,
Hmm.
really hard to enjoy yourself, I guess. But um, I,
Yeah.
I think there's a place for all of that. But I just simply think that if you break it down to those three formats, Grand Army becomes the C choice for me.
Yeah. You know what? I think the best place for a Grand Army, or we could call it a Grand Army, maybe it's not by definition a Grand Army, is like an escalation league or an escalation event. We've done a lot of those where it's like week one, 400 points, week two, 600 points, week three, 800, week four, 1,000.
Okay.
Because 1,000 point games are actually really interesting because it's just past that threshold where you can start doing really cool things
Yep.
with lists. Like, for example, you can really make Palpatine Vader work,
Mm,
or you can make like Vader and like a Gav tank and then still have like a really strong supporting army behind it. So you can like, you're not like giving up so much to take those two like 200 point pieces
right.
because you still can fill out your core and your special forces and everything. So it's like I played a 1,000 point game that was like Palp, Vader, triple Sabs, and an IRG, and it's like when you have the IRG keeping Vader, Palpatine, and your Sabs alive,
Mhm.
that's like a disgusting combo.
Then it becomes
You
a
know that you can't.
distinct
Yeah,
reminder of
those
why you can't run that at 800 points.
exactly. It's not balanced for that. But
Right.
your opponent has 1,000 points to throw at you as well, so it just gets crazy,
Hmm.
and that's really fun. I like that ending a league on that like giant game, and then you tell players like, well, just plan for it taking 4 hours.
Hmm.
Maybe it doesn't, but just plan your day like it's going to.
Yeah.
Schedule your games for the weekends, not the weeknights.
Yeah.
But man, I just think skirmish is such an easier sell for most people than Grand Army.
Yep.
It's people are looking to spend less time more often than not. I'm thinking so.
Yeah.
I think Grand Army. One last thing I'd like to add to it. I think it just need. I think if the community really took it on its back, it could be a thing. If the rules were a little bit more fleshed out, like maybe it doesn't have to be a 6 round game. Maybe you can like take a bigger command hand. There's not a lot of those details ironed out, so it's a lot of house rule stuff. Um, I think the devs have shown like if the community's loud enough, they'll just put a PDF out of rules. They did it with skirmish, so if we want Grand Army, let's just keep talking about it,
Uh,
and
let me
we'll get it eventually.
let me say this: there is something to be said for a Grand Army style game.
Hmm.
If you're doing like at a store event and you're looking to have people sort of maybe drop in or learn, you get six or
Hmm.
seven people around a table, and you kind of give them a couple activations to manipulate and move.
Hmm.
They're learning actions through what other people are doing. So maybe they don't have any
Yep.
melee, maybe they don't have many shooting, maybe they don't do a lot of moving, whatever have you. But they're able to see many other people as opposed to just watching one other person manipulate all their stuff. And you'll lose a little bit when, let's say, you and I are learning the game together. I'm trying to teach you, but in teaching you, I have to tell you everything that I'm doing, so that really the strategy is not really there for you, because you're like, well, I'm doing this, so you should do this. I have to kind of tell you what the counterplay would be. In a Grand Army
Hmm.
scheme, you don't have to say everything. You can see a lot more. You can watch the battle kind of unfold, learn little pieces of the game, and then watch other parts. So I really think that
Yeah.
big games are nice learning. We've done a couple of those, like 3-on-3 type things. So we'll even do it with smaller point values, just the standard points, but just give people a little bit smaller piece to manipulate. So I wouldn't say coming out of COVID, Grand Army is where I'm going to start to rebuild this game if you need to do that in your community. But it's certainly something
Hmm.
that you could build up to, I think. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure, for sure.
yeah. Okay, well that I think takes care of that question. We'll
Okay.
come back. Mike in chat said on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited am I for the Jar Jar he's printing? I said 11. James said, "What do you guys think of?" Well, this is not a question that was here, but I'll put it up anyway. What do you guys think of hemmed in? I've been blue player and had the deployment force on me as a droid player, and both times my entire army got decimated by turn 4. I'll tell you right now, as a droid player and typically blue, I don't put it in my deck because I also do not like it as a droid player.
Yeah. Hemmed in is, you can get caught in a trap with hemmed in. I think there's certain lists that want to be blue player on hemmed in really bad. I think one of those is Double the Fall. Or any sort of those ultra aggressive like saber user dive bomb lists. There's not a lot of them left, but Double the Fall comes to mind as something that actually really likes hemmed in. But I think a lot of the times, man, hemmed in's a trap because you're just presenting your entire army like, here you go, take range 2 shots at me in turn 1. That's not always the best position to be in. Most of the time, games of Legion, you're like deliberately timid for the first couple of turns. With most like gun line lists and stuff. So hemmed in's interesting. I think what you want to do is know this. If you're a blue player, we're using your deck. So if your list is not designed around being short range and really strong on hemmed in, just cut it. Don't put it in your deck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would.
If you're playing Sabs or something though, man, hemmed in.
B2s, radiation cannons. All of those would be fine for that. So if you're running those
snow troopers in an occupier, stuff like that. Yeah, stuff you want to shove in short range early. That's what hemmed in's for.
I mean, that's how you make Wookiees effective. Is take hemmed in because you can absorb those early shots and just get them in. So yeah, I mean, if you're playing droids, I think those B2s and radiation cannons are probably the only thing that's really loving that range 2 game. If you're running armor or nakeds with heavies, I control the range game. If you're running heavies range 4 like the sniper droids, then you definitely none of that equates to success for me. So so there's not really any tip there. It's basically either change your list or drop it. That's the only advice.
It's just good for specific lists. That's it. That's what it comes down to. And you've identified that your list doesn't do well on it, so just cut it.
Yeah, there you go. I took it out after the last event. Just perfect.
Yeah, there
awesome.
You go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, next question on the list is wished list items for the in-flight report at the end of the month. This comes from Richard. I mean, Joe's already said some of the things that we know that we're probably going to see. But if he's like straight out speculation, I mean, I'd feel remiss if I didn't say this like I always do. I mean, an AA, like an AT-AT. I mean, if you just want to drop that. Speaking of Grand Army, just drop us in a little AT-AT. That'd be super nice. $300 model. That's fine. Even if it's just the legs, just give us the legs. Just scale it up. It's just legs.
FFG just needs like a Forge World equivalent where I can order like my $1,000 AT-AT.
Yep. Give me a lat.
The pay to win.
Yep. Yep. It's just like I said, just legs is fine. Just point the foot, and that's your indicator of your arc. Just a 6-inch base with a foot. There we go. I mean.
I'll tell you who I really want to see in Legion, and everyone's going to be like, man, of all the stuff, that's your choice. He's already in the game. Man, I want some Darth Sidious like pre-transformation Palpatine for the CIS or the Republic or both. Like, what if there's a cross-faction version or like who knows? But man, I'd love to see Papa Palps.
Papa Palps. Jeez, who do I want to see?
Speed 3 corkscrew. I want to see it, man.
Yeah, I don't
dual wielding the lightsabers, like, oh man, give me a new Palpatine profile because I'm a little bored by the original one now at this point.
Right. Yeah. So maybe some revamps. I'm just trying to think. Like, I'm really big into vehicles, so I mean. And I've said it before.
There's no shortage of options there, at least in the Clone Wars factions.
I know, like the lat would be. I mean, you and I have been talking about this, and I was like saying all the wicked 3D prints out there. I'd love to see a lat transport. Like, I'd love to see my clones be able to like just do rapid reinforced turn 2, and they don't have to worry about the infiltrate rules, so you don't get them turn one, so you lose all that firepower, but you come in wherever you want. Turn two, you do the disembark. We already got rules for this, the single action after the disembark. Clones just come in force, but I want to see it like 2 full units can come in a lat, so that you're not dropping off a single unit just to die. But for me, lat drop ships are where it's at. I love 40K drop ships and the whole premise of how they come in, and they got the different vehicles and things like that. I really like that. So a lat for me would be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Or just like a vehicle that has like the infiltrate keyword that can deploy anywhere on the table or something.
Yeah, that's effectively what it'd be.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Like comes in, does 1 round of shooting where it can like just kind of lay like almost like a maximum firepower, but the turn you bring it in. And then drops off units, so it comes in with purpose, but it's not like overpowering where it exists for the whole game. Make it worthwhile for your points to take it, so people do, but don't make it super cheap where everyone it becomes an auto include. I mean,
yeah, man, that would be interesting.
I mean, I barely thought about this at all, so I mean, clearly I'm just I've clearly not thought about this, but yeah. In chat we're saying Mace Windu can't come soon enough.
Yeah, you know what? My boy Mace. Come on, man.
I'd
love him.
Yeah.
I've said that before. We had a stream like this, I think, last year, and I brought them up, and I'd love to see it. Hey, man, they've done a few of the Rogue One casts. Why not keep it going, right?
Yep.
And you know what? We have this Cassian show that's eventually going to come to Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure we'll see like a resurgence of characters from Rogue One popping back up here, and that would be the perfect time to introduce those.
What about Saw Gerrera? And a little bit.
Come on, man, Saw's like a given. He's awesome.
All right, like low hanging fruit.
A lot of people want to run those like really aggressive, nasty like rebels that they're not even part of the Rebel Alliance anymore because they're too extreme. Mm-hmm. Like just straight up terrorists. Yeah. Like led by Saw's partisans. That would be really interesting.
Like something like with a panic mechanic. Like if you panic, it's not closest board edge, it's towards closest enemy. Like, whatever.
Oh, man, that'd be or like some suicide bomb type stuff.
For
like
sure.
I'd blow myself up.
Yeah, you're panicking, and we keep panicking towards. I mean, eventually you might recover and kind of regain your nerve. And okay, well that's
so. Speaking of I want to talk about a mechanic I'd love to see in this game that you kind of brought up earlier, and I think we could piggyback on something. So we have a bunch of objectives and a bunch of situations in this game where we have bombs now. Mm-hmm. So, for example, Bombing Run has a bomb objective. Saboteurs have bombs that they can drop. Cad Bane's going to have all these different bombs and stuff that he can place around the table. I'd like to see a unit that could safely disarm them. And I don't know what that looks like in terms of design, whether it's you can disarm something at range 2, so you're outside of the explosion range, or you can, have some sort of incognito style keyword that allows you to sneak up to bombs and be immune to their detonation, and either like clear them off the table or flip them to friendly or something, and create even more interactions with bombs. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's something that's really thematic in Star Wars and just in wargaming in general, or just in role-playing games in general, the like saboteur, disarm type mechanic. I mean, you see it in the Clone Wars. There's literally a unit of clone specialists that are called the Bomb Squad that are sent in to disarm bombs. You could probably justify some sort of droid that does the same thing. I think that would be a cool design to have added to this game.
100%. And I will be super surprised if Facebook's filters for the word bombs doesn't shut our live stream down here. So just saying, we're talking about toys and we're talking about a game. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's just, no, but I 100% agree. So, I like fun mechanics. I think that the game is built around that. We get some keywords that occasionally may come in and sort of turn the game upside down for a little bit. But I think that, if we can build around mechanics that we have, I really like the new missions, because I was telling you, I think the first missions were very one dimensional. Get to the other side, claim this at the
Yeah.
end, tap this evaporator and sit there and try to win on points. Where now it's like hostage exchange. It's like move, can't shoot, try to get the other one, keep yours protected, bombing run. You got to play that whole sort of line that you need to do. Payload is another one that is. We'll talk about that in another one, but that is a very, very strategic heavy mission, right down
Yeah.
to the point of where do I deploy my cart? What's my path? Do I take the end around, the straight in? I love that. So yeah, anything that we could do around interactions with bombs would be cool. And I like the idea of being able to like comms jammer or prevent a detonation or disarm a bomb or something like that. Like,
Or
look at
or
bomb.
take control of it so that you can't detonate it, but maybe I can now.
Right. Yeah.
Anything like that would be interesting.
Yeah. Or like even
Yeah.
even if that was maybe too powerful, but maybe what happens is that instead of the straight like you get to detonate, maybe there's a little bit of a roll where
Yeah.
I get to make a roll and see if my sabotage sort of worked, or my preventative tactics prevented your bomb from going off, and then maybe the bomb, or maybe there's even a mechanic where it's like I roll this and it goes off in your favor. I roll this and it doesn't go off at all, or I roll this and it goes off and it's actually detrimental to only you. Maybe it was
Right, right.
like a miss detonation of some kind. So yeah,
Yeah, there's
it,
a lot of different ways to make that interesting, and I think in this on the same token, if people go, well, then no one would just play Sabs or Bombing Run, and you would hard counter that unit. Well, what if that unit could like interact with moisture evaporators
hmm
at range 1 or 2?
yeah,
Like there could be a way to design something interesting like that, like a hacker, an operative, like sort of ISB agent
yep,
would be cool. Anything like that. So
yeah.
we'll see.
We'll see for sure. All
Yeah.
right, well, let's have a look at. We got a couple more questions here for sure. Okay, we did that one. This one here. Hey guys, can you talk about the mall leak? Like which
Mhm.
mall do you think, such as Double Saber or Dark Saber version? This one's from Justin.
Yeah. Well, so we did. It's not a surprise. I mean, this has been on the internet for a few months now, actually. So
Yep.
I think Alliance sent out their order list to either to stores, and on there was Anakin and
Mall.
Maul
Yep.
listed. So all right, we can assume now we'll probably see them at the end of the month. We're probably going to get Anakin and Maul here in the game.
Right.
To be honest with you, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean,
Shocker.
they're core characters to
Yeah.
the franchise and the era. So I mean, come on, we saw that coming a mile away. But
Yeah.
what version of Maul do I think it'll be? I mean, if it's me, and I know people get all crazy about the canon. It's like this isn't CIS yet, and blah blah blah. But I'd say just go episode 1 Maul, legs,
Like
just
spider legs? That's
no,
not
just
enough.
straight up. I mean, I would just go straight up episode 1 Maul,
Yeah.
iconic, awesome. There's so many cool poses you can put them in, and it leaves you room down the line to do other versions of Maul.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Does he come in two pieces and he joins at the waist?
I'm sure he does. I hope he does. I don't know.
I mean, it just makes magnetization so much easier.
Yeah.
Just saying. I mean, why?
Yeah,
If if it doesn't, so many people are hacking him in half. It's not
oh
even
man,
funny.
honestly, like the amount of people who are going to do that just so when you kill them, they can like take this top half off and
Yeah,
lay it down on the table.
yeah.
I know I'm
He
going to see it.
Here lies Maul. I mean, just let's be honest. People are going to spider leg him as well, for sure.
Yeah,
So yeah.
there's
Now,
just there's a recurring theme throughout all three trilogies is that someone, particularly a villain, most of the time has to fall down a giant hole. I
yeah.
mean, that's just what happens in Star Wars, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, small aside, I've been rewatching Trailer Park Boys episodes, and there's an episode where Jim Leahy reveals that he's Ricky's father, but just prior to that, he smacks his wrist really really hard with a broom handle, and so Ricky's there doing the like the whole like you've cut my hand off type deal, and then
Yeah.
Jim says, look at find your feelings. I'm your father. It's just like I was like, wow, I sort of missed that previously, but it was awesome. I just like to see
That's awesome.
that Star Wars culture permeate into other fiction or I guess other theatrical performances such as Trailer Park Boys. So great piece of television, by the way, if you
Yeah.
haven't seen it. But yeah, no, I think Maul's pretty cool. Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Maul, so we've seen ID 10 for Iden. Is
Hmm.
Maul going to have some sort of like, well, I don't even know what those little like what are they, like
The probe,
seekers, a probe? Yeah,
the
probes.
probe droids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like does he get some sort of companion? Um
I would love that. I think that would make sense, especially if you do episode one Maul. I mean, thematically, that's where he had those. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know if there's any sort of correlation here. And this is maybe just like conspiracy theory stuff. Like it doesn't have to make sense, but I've noticed, and I've had other people point this out to me as well, that typically, um, when you look across all of the Star Wars franchise licensing, and when I say that, franchise is the wrong word, but merchandise licensing.
mhm.
So you look at Hasbro figures, Sideshow collectible statues, Hot Toys figures, video games, and their DLC releases, and then even like a miniatures game like Legion. I've noticed like once something kind of gets announced for Legion, I'm also seeing those same characters kind of coming out with a Hasbro figure at the same time, and with this character's getting added to Star Wars Battlefront 2 at the same time that it's coming out in Legion. So I wonder if Lucasfilm kind of combines these discussions together. I don't really know how that works.
They
I don't
could.
know if they're dishing out, like, hey, we're gonna focus on Maul this month. Let this company release a new Maul. Let this company release a new Maul. But I've noticed there's been a correlation in the past that it's like really easy. It's like, oh man, they're doing Boba Fett suddenly, and then everyone's releasing a new Boba Fett.
Mhm.
Um, so with that being said, a lot of the malls I've been seeing coming out toy wise lately have had those probe droids
Oh,
as
they
an
have. Oh,
accessory.
okay. I mean, I
That's where
would.
I was. That was the whole point I was trying to circle back to. But yeah, I mean, so maybe
Okay,
you know,
so
I
so mine's
yeah.
less conspiracy theory, but more like looking at what's come out. Operative drops. It's Iden and ID 10.
Right.
Cassian drops. Companion K2SO. So these
Mhm.
these companion type operative units seem to be kind of a trend they're going with. Now, does that mean that Maul is an operative? I can see that because you know we've got CAD, but I don't know for sure. And then if so, is Anakin an operative as
I
well?
think okay. I think that's actually
Oh, is
already
it?
been
Oh,
leaked.
maybe. I don't pay attention
Yeah,
to leaks for
I I
worth
think
anything, but
Anakin's a commander. I'm
okay.
pretty sure it says Commander Anakin.
Okay, so then he can come out with nothing. But Maul
Hmm.
potentially, if he comes in the operative slot, and maybe people know he is an operative. I'm not 100% sure, but um, maybe he comes with a companion type thing. Because I kind of I like how they're going with those box sets. I like that,
Dude,
and I like that it is not a mandatory take either. Like we had
yeah, and
R2 C3PO. You don't have to take both. You got to take one and then the other potentially. You
mhm.
take Iden and ID 10, but you don't have to take ID 10. You take Cassian or K2. Like there's that potential. So I kind of like that. So
I I think that lends right back to Cheer It and Baze, man. I'd love to see
mm,
them as a two pack, and maybe they have a detachment rule or a partnership rule where you could play one or the other, or you could play both, and then they deploy near each other or something. Who knows?
right.
But man, in terms of the mall stuff, I'm just gonna assume that okay, it's pretty obvious he'll have some force slots. It's pretty
Mm,
obvious he's dark side. Man, anytime you give me access to Force Choke, I'm happy. So hopefully Maul's really fast
Hmm.
because like a Dooku Maul list or something with double Force Choke, that's right up my alley, man.
Mm.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Double
And
push.
and double push and you know what maybe that means anytime I see a new Jedi coming out or a new Force user, I'm excited because that means possibly new Force powers
Hmm.
that you can then use to really redesign the existing Force users, and there's a lot of potential there. Maybe Maul comes out with a card that makes Palpatine amazing or Vader. You never know. Who knows? But I love that stuff. So
Okay.
we'll just have to. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good question, Justin, and good questions so far for everyone. We got two more here, which probably brings us up to about time anyway. But Chad, if you got any last minutes, get them in there. This one is coming in from Michael, and it says, "Are more just right along our line here? Are more Force users, lightsaber users, good or bad for the game? We know Maul and Anakin are coming. There's more to draw from. What's everyone else's feeling about them?" So, chat, feel free to put in your, thumbs up, thumbs down. Well, maybe to say yes or no. So we don't want any thumbs down on the shows, um, but yeah, what do you guys think about lightsaber users, force users? I don't say bad. I don't like to see them across the table from me because they're usually like full of tricks and death. But I don't think it's necessarily bad. I'm not looking at Maul and Anakin and saying, "Oh, bad direction for the game." For sure, I'm not.
No.
But um,
No. Come on. People love those characters.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we got calls for Windu in the chat as well. I don't think that's bad. So
I love it. I just think that you have to keep in mind that most of the time when you have a lightsaber on the table, it's a focus piece and it's really expensive and really strong. So you just have to find a way to make sure it feels really good for its points, but also isn't game breakingly strong. And it's worth taking, but there's a trade off and it can be countered. And that's the kind of stuff, that FFG really has to focus on anytime they're designing these new lightsaber users. It's really easy to make them too good,
yeah,
but it's also really easy, I think, to make them overcosted.
that's
So
exactly what
I
I was
think,
going to say. The
yeah, I
cost.
think they need to be thoroughly tested and iterated upon and designed well. And I think the team has done a pretty good job of that so far. So yeah, but I'm all in for it, man. I want like the whole Jedi Council in this game at some point. And I'd like the idea that they're all expensive enough to make them a choice. If you see in the Clone Wars, they kind of like take on the campaign of an entire planet by themselves most of the time.
Hmm.
So I don't think I want to build a list that's like all lightsabers. I think that's just like ridiculous. Unless they're like little fodder Padawans or something, and that could be cool. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that, Sean? I mean,
Yeah. So I was gonna go down that. Just a question there for Mike too, or a comment. I'll get to that. I was going to go down the same thing. Is that the points for me
mhm,
have to feel right? And one of the things that I think are tough to account for unit points or the cost of a unit are the command cards.
yeah,
And so it's really hard to I think to point value cards because the point value of the cards are usually just kind of like they're binary, they're for that unit. However, the synergistic nature of those cards can seemingly make a unit feel way too good for its points
yes,
or way overcosted for its points if you don't take the right complementary components. So for me, that's one of the things, and I think we hear that a lot. We hear, like, if Mike's comment, a case in point, right, that a 35 point R2 feels so broken.
hmm,
However, R2 can be even more broken when he has synergistic units buffing him or moving him along to make him nigh unkillable. However, an R2 with no complement can just die.
yeah,
And so at that point it's like, well, he's appropriate because if he was 50 points and he just died and did nothing, then you'd say he's overcosted.
right,
So the points value for me, and it's a balance for sure.
yeah,
I just that's the only thing when I see these powerful units come out. We're already hearing that Cad is overcosted for what he does, and he hasn't hit the table yet.
I don't think that's the case. I just
No,
think
no,
people haven't seen.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm just saying that that's kind of that reactionary mentality,
Hmm.
where things gotta prove their value.
Yeah.
We've seen a ton of units
Yeah.
kind of get that initial skies falling type mentality, and then later prove their value, and in some
Hmm.
cases prove their value so good that they need to get a change.
Right.
So
I think people need to kind of understand a little bit of how the development process works too, where it's like these units aren't being developed one at a time. So even though they're kind of released one at a time. So like sometimes you have a unit like Cad Bane that like in a vacuum doesn't look great because you don't even have fully spoiled BX droids yet.
mhm,
And you don't know what all the unreleased stuff is going to do over the next 6 months because we're still waiting for a panel at the end of July, right?
right,
So there might be something you're missing about that. It's like that's why this game is always changing.
yeah,
Um, Something that comes out today and it needs something down the line to make it a lot better, but it hasn't been announced yet.
mhm,
And you look at it day one and you're like, this thing's trash, not going to play it. Because, a lot of people have hated on Boba Fett a lot recently, but then there's still like the potential that Boba Fett really shines at like hunting R2D2 and shutting down Secret Mission, scoring on Bombing Run, doing a lot of stuff that I don't think a lot of people have put in tons and tons of reps with and got a ton of data yet, and don't really know like what. Do I need something to counter like Clan Ren when they come out, or what? Like there's just a lot of stuff like that that makes it really difficult to rule out whether a unit is useless or amazing. But there's times where certain stuff can feel like it's not great.
right,
I mean, I've said many times like I a lot I've and I've the data has proven it recently that like no one's really playing Palpatine competitively anymore. There was a time where he was like dominating, and now it's like and it's like, well, yeah, when you have standby and all these clone lists and all this token sharing and the ability to just like destroy him quickly, and he hasn't had any sort of revisions this year. Like, there's no new force powers that make him better. There's no points reduction that makes his list building any different. It's very easy to be like, yeah, he's not so great anymore. Let's not play him. But as soon as like new things come out, it could really shake that up. So who knows?
right.
Yeah.
I was going to add to that. What was that? What was my point here? Geez, I lost my train of thought for a second. I was I was going to say. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When you have units that come out, you were announcing that that units aren't released, like they're developed together and then kind of released in sort of piecemeal.
Yeah.
We've seen this sort of imbalance with sniper release, right? When rebels had snipers and Imperials didn't,
Hmm.
and we really saw that imbalance. It's like, well, they're too good. They were too good in that vacuum scenario because they
Yeah.
didn't have a counterpart. Now, that being said, I don't think it's necessarily fair to constantly compare things that come out together. So I heard a lot about like dewbacks aren't equivalent to tauntauns. But I don't think that's the intent always with the releases, that you're releasing the
Yeah.
exact counter or equivalent unit every single time. I
Hmm.
would rather have a unit come out at the same time that has a different feel, a different look, and changes my list in a different way. If it's like you get a tank, you get a tank, you get a sniper, you get a sniper, you get a melee unit, you get a melee unit. I don't need a game like that because
Hmm.
then I'm not. It doesn't force me or even inspire me to collect multiple factions. Well, I'm going to get this in a different
It's true.
box. I'm going to get
It's
this in
true.
it.
I'm just getting the reskin for my faction of
Right,
this vehicle. Right, yeah.
right.
That's a fair point. And unfortunately, a lot of Legion has been that way.
It has been. It has been.
But at least across the original two factions and then the new two factions, there's kind of like this. Oh, you got snipers, then you got snipers. Oh, you got your new support, and we got our new support. You got your third core with your detachment. We got our third core with a detachment. But I agree, man. If you look at like games like Warhammer or something, they
Yeah,
just put out random stuff for a new for factions like randomly.
yeah,
And you're like, oh, this faction suddenly got this crazy new unit. They didn't have to like mirror that release. And there's so many factions in play that it's really easy to have them feel somewhat diverse.
Right, because what you're speaking
So
to is what I would describe as faction identity. So if you're telling
yeah,
me
yeah.
that rebels are character heavy with some supports, then I want
Mhm.
to just release units that further that line. If you want to tell me
Yeah.
that Empire is efficient and their gun platforms, then give me that. If you want to tell me that droids are all about bodies and then they have kind of these like I guess sort of eccentric or unique units that really are kind of one-offs, then
Yeah.
give me that. If clones are all about the synergistic, we are one, we are clones, then give me
Mhm.
that. Give me something that buffs that up, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right.
I don't need the equivalent release to make the game feel balanced. I think that the game is balanced by having faction identities that have strengths and weaknesses, and then my enjoyment comes from finding those, exploiting those, and then playing to the strengths and mitigating the weaknesses.
For sure.
I'm not gonna be like Joe's got snipers in his list, so my natural counter is I'm gonna take snipers, right?
Right.
That's not you got melee. Oh well, I'll meet you with melee. Like I don't want that to be how the game develops. So
Yeah. Nicholas Flores saying more melee. I'm saying heck yeah, man.
sure,
I love melee. Yeah.
yeah. I will say that my naked B1s are as good in melee as they are at shooting.
Wow, how convenient.
Yeah, they
But
are
you know what?
equally good.
They're good at tar pitting, man, because you don't care about them.
Nope, you don't. I mean,
Like that's
I care
I
about my
love
droids. I mean, I care about each one of them.
every single one of them costs me money.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I look at them more like 6 pointers, every time,
Yeah.
just killing me on the old
My
MOV.
wallet hurts every time I have to pick one up and take it off the table.
Speaking of
That
wallet and hurting, equating to time, I saw on post today that an individual, and I didn't catch his name. I think he said he spent 16 hours, I think it was, assembling his droidicas, and was saying he
oh
was looking for efficiencies. I would suggest switching factions. Um,
wow, I didn't think they were that bad. I know they were a little tedious. I
yeah,
wouldn't say that length of time.
I could be wrong on
I
the
saw
number,
that
but it
post
was
though. That
way
guy was
more.
using super glue, and then a bunch of people were like, "Use plastic glue." He's like, "My fingers are stuck together."
Yeah,
I get it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah,
Hey, not everyone's at various different skill levels in their hobby. This guy might be his first time putting
yeah,
together these tiny little models, and I
yeah.
get it.
All his
I
droidicas are
don't think
just.
FFG. I, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say all his droidicas are just wrecked markers, just a pile of droidica pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If there's one thing FFG doesn't do the best job of, and I, I don't know if this is a Fantasy Flight thing because I feel the same way about Atomic Mass Games, but some of their build guides that come with the boxes are not the best.
right.
It's the one thing I got to say. GW typically has really nice build guides that are like really easy to follow. These sometimes I'm like, what is this?
Like
Like it's yeah.
one of the things I dislike about them is I find that they don't put enough steps in
Exactly.
their thing.
It's like one image of all the pieces
yeah,
spread out,
yeah.
and then it's like, oh, just figure out how they go together.
And there's that particular order, and you get to that like that oh my god you step where it's like oh I have one piece left. Where did that oh my god
Yeah.
that had
Yeah.
to
No,
go.
you know what? Have you put together the bombing run bombs yet?
No, I haven't put but I heard
So here's the
there's a
thing.
piece that's inverted, and if you don't get it right, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
they're do not follow the instructions because they're so confusing. But essentially, there's two ways to display your bombs. One, it's there's like a keypad for arming it, and I think what it is, it's like the keypad is either indented into the bomb or it's like bulging out, like it's activated or something.
Okay.
So when you assemble it, it makes it look like you're supposed to put both pieces on. it doesn't indicate that one is optional. So it's like,
Mm.
what am I doing wrong here? Like, I have this extra piece, but my bomb looks like it's fully assembled. What did I miss here? And me and my girlfriend were like building them together, and we were going back and forth. We're like, what is this? And then we're like trying to look at the box art and stuff. And finally, we saw some images on Google, and we were like, oh, there's actually two different ways to build them.
Right.
Man, the instructions make that so confusing. Like they're just so poorly done. Just add a couple sentences or
Yep.
put like a separate image. Like I don't understand. It's so bad. But
Option
other
A, option
yeah,
B.
exactly. It's
Right.
like they're both pointing on the model or so. It's like what? So yeah, there's some weird stuff there. All in all, though, Legion has been pretty easy. I mean, Atomic Mass Games, Marvel Crisis Protocol minis are pretty horrible.
Hmm.
It's like they don't have any sort of pose options, and yet they still decide to make the head like three pieces. You know, it's like,
I think
and
I think I heard that you got to glue the doorknob on the door for the
yeah,
terrain.
it's just like the weirdest things.
Mm.
It's like this guy's whole leg is sculpted except for one tiny pocket that you have to like. Why? You know, like weird stuff like that. Yeah,
Right.
it's really weird.
You know what?
So
You know what it is? It's a guy sitting there and like in the design, he's like leans over his buddy. He's like, hey, look at this. I'm sending it out like this. People are gonna have to glue this one piece on.
ugh,
Send. Out it goes. It gets printed, and then we have podcasts like ours just talking about it.
just
So,
ripping on it.
yep,
We have no talent, but we
yeah,
rip on it.
that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the internet.
yep. I mean, it's got to be true. We said it. So, all right, last question, and we'll wrap this show up here. So, got 12 minutes to get under the 2 hour mark here. So, good long chat. I'm having a lot of fun tonight though. So, hopefully you guys are as well. Last one coming in from LJ. LJ submits this question: how do you make Scum faction?
Okay, I got two ideas on that, but I'd like to hear yours first, Sean.
Okay, well, I have hardly thought about this as well, but I will tell you my idea. I so mine extends a little bit past Scum faction, and I think that I'd like to call it. I guess it's kind of in the mercenary type category,
Yeah.
but here's how you do it. Scum faction. There's a plethora of characters. Hondo comes to mind. You know, as a great unit. You got Hondo. You got his pirates, right? I got him in the game.
The
Yeah,
weak way warriors and
yeah,
skiff guards
yeah.
and yeah,
So I got them.
yep.
They come out. They're I don't want to call them a sub faction. They're an independent. They're kind of like the Dogs of War were for fantasy and Warhammer, where you could take them in any faction. They're guns for
Right.
higher equivalents, right? Now
Mhm.
you give every army whatever slot you want. I was saying like I think 1 to 2 or 0 to 2 would be appropriate. You can only ever take one. They're all independent, so you can never take two of the same thing. Um,
Mhm.
and you could take them so that Joe and I can sit across from each other and have him playing let's say Empire, me playing Rebels, and then I can have a Scum faction or a villainy unit, and Joe can have the exact same unit. And so,
Mhm.
that lends to the narrative that basically this particular force may fight for whoever they so choose. We have some equivalents so that we got a little bit of a leveling mechanism where it's not like Empire has access to only these particular scum units, and Rebel you
Mhm.
only have access to these particular scum units. So then there's this leveling mechanism. If you think it from a sales perspective, you're opening up you're opening up sales. So
Yeah.
I just collect Empire. Well, now I can still access this faction. I just collect Rebels. Well, I can still access this faction. Or if I'm a player who collects two factions, I only have to buy one of each of these boxes
Mhm.
because I can only ever use one. I don't have to go out and get three of Hondo's boxes.
Right.
So
Right.
so then
Right.
there's this thing where I don't feel like I have to overinvest in another faction because it's not, and I can feel like I can get one and make it very versatile for usage in all the armies I choose to play, or just in the one army that I choose to play. So
I can
that's
see
that.
so many different ways to make that interesting, and you can even do something like you can even say like, well, during the command phase or during the start of a turn, like they just get issued their own orders, but they can't be affected by your command cards. Like they're not in your army, they're working in their best interest, but you can
Right.
still control them and make them go when you want them to go or something like that. That could be super interesting, and I think it's kind of like what I was going to say. I was going to say like I'd like to see some neutral units released, neutral mercenaries, Tusken Raiders, Jawas, anything that has some that can like have an effect on the battlefield, but not really have an alignment to the existing factions. And then, in order to call them a scum faction, when enough of them are released, you just let people build armies with them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
I mean, that's literally it.
the
Like
eventual the
Boba Fett
eventual
commander.
end
Yeah.
goal, if you will. Yeah.
Hmm. And
Uh,
I think what you do is you do exactly what's going on with like R2D2 where he's cross faction, and you just let people you let people build armies with them when there's enough of them that can actually form a real army.
mhm.
And you can do things like use existing models that would have been faction specific but are sort of neutral, like the bounty hunters are anyway. The bounty hunters, all of them in this game, are teetering on the fence of like having a soft alliance at best. I mean, Boba Fett and Bosk, they're not relegated to the Empire specifically.
Right.
It just fit in the design space at the time. They could be the perfect units to like be commanders for a scum faction.
Right.
And Cad Bane and all those future units you were talking about
Yep.
that could potentially be. I mean, I would love to see it. I think, man, that's why I don't really want to see it get released the way the other factions have been released
No.
as a core box.
No core
It's
box.
like you have a scum faction now. I'd
Mhm.
rather just see a bunch of units that you can put together that have come out over the course of the game that now have a new rule set when they get combined together. I think that is like what sub factions need to be, and I think I can draw a direct comparison to another game that I like, the Middle Earth strategy battle game. In Middle Earth, there are something called legendary legions, and I think that concept could be applied to Star Wars Legion perfectly. A legendary legion is just it's like a theme specific army that uses that like forces you to, when you build your list, only be allowed to select certain specific units. And if you take them instead of taking like a whole faction, you just take those specific units together and you still build your list with the same restrictions or point values and everything. But when the run is that specific group, they get bonuses. They get new keywords, stuff
Okay.
like that. So it's like, hey, if I using a hypothetical scum faction, instead of Boba Fett being an operative for Imperials, he can now be a commander for a scum sub faction, and he gains the following keyword, or if he is your commander, the army gets this specific bonus,
Mhm.
and you can only take other bounty hunters and like whatever stuff you saw at Jabba's palace or whatever, something that would make sense to pair with Boba.
I was thinking too along those lines that potentially, if you do choose to add a scum unit, what they could each come with, and just to incentivize people to potentially take that there could be something similar to like even the supply deck, where you could have a
Mm-hmm.
scum and villainy, and they're like kind of like a mini objective, and so that it'd be like a random draw, and it's like they have like a mission of like um, kill a an opposing trooper unit in a melee, like some sort of like
Mm-hmm.
mini thing where it's like, oh, okay, now they have a purpose that
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have to drive. But the other opponent could have a very similar. Maybe it's like score an objective, a point, and if you do so, gain an extra one. So it's almost like there's mini missions within that. It would be fully revealed for your opponent potentially, or maybe maybe it's a secretive thing. I just really
Mm-hmm.
I like games within games. I always have, and I think
Yeah.
that FFG's been doing a little bit of that with like Secret Mission, with Bounty. So those are games within games.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
Scum
yes.
and Villainy come out, or whatever you want to call. I'm just using that because that's the X-wing equivalent, and that's exactly what they have. It's a common deck. That way, it's not faction, it's not unit specific, but you have that deck and you draw it off, and it's like, okay, here's your Scum mission for this turn, in addition to what
Right.
you're already doing. So I think that's really
Yeah.
cool that you're not just like, oh, I'm bringing this unit because it buffs everything else. It's not actually going to do anything. Incentivize a
Mhm.
player to play it, and incentivize your opponent to maybe counter it or have something else to worry about, kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah. I
just
mean,
something fun. Could be anything.
that'd be really cool. So one other thing I thought, so going back to the mercenaries thing, I just have one more point I'd like to add, because one of the questions I saw, I don't know if you have it loaded up or not, but was someone wanted to know our speculation on what the logical third core unit could be for CIS and clones. And so I saw that post on Facebook, or that comment, and I was like really trying to rack my brain before the show on that, thinking, and I'm like, you know what? I think phase 1 and 2 clones like make perfect sense. Like there's not, I can't think of another clone that wouldn't be like a special forces or like a detachment or something that like would make for a whole slew of bodies. And the same thing with the droids. I'm like, man, the B1s and the B2s are the core of the CIS faction. Like there was no super spammed droid
Do you
in
do
the
you
whole show.
do you
So
think like maybe a weapons, like I'm just thinking Mark twos and
mm,
mortars, like they
okay,
come
so
out, they fill the troop slot, but we don't have an equivalent, aka
interesting. So like a weapons platform. You know,
I,
I didn't
I'm
think of
just
that.
I'm drawing
What I
parallels again, but
Yeah, no, that's a good point. What I did think of is the one thing that is so thematic to the Clone Wars is that like the battles are happening on hundreds of planets, and there's all these like people on each planet that are rising up to fight. So
hmm,
what if we just started going like, oh, I don't know, there's just a unit of Mon Calamari,
right.
or and like, and then like there's so much you can do. It's like you can kind of keep that going forever. Mon Cala warriors or whatever, or like um Ryloth, like the Twi'leks on Ryloth, like Twi'lek survivors or something, Ryloth, whatever. I mean, there's so many different like species they have access to that kind of fought in the Clone Wars, but weren't really like a core of the Republic or CIS. And if you did that, to me, that just lends itself back to like, oh, that opens up the door for more like Legendary Legion, Scum faction. I have a whole army of this. I know tons of people want to see Jar Jar.
Yeah, I got so
He's
I got
probably the most popular
calls for Gungans and Jawas in the chat
guns,
here.
man.
Yep.
Yeah, come on, who would? You'd buy them. I
Oh,
would.
I've told you all along, man. Shield generating dinosaur. I'm all over it.
On, man.
Yep.
I'll buy it all. I love it.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just keep coming out with new product and we'll see what we get. And I'm sure it's all going to be awesome.
Yeah. But
So
yeah, I think that's one of the things when you go down that speculate. That's why I kind of was saying about the weapons is like, we've seen that as like when they've ran out of sort of core trooper options, you go to kind of a support weapon that doesn't take your support slot. We've
yeah,
seen, you know what I mean. So
yep.
that's I don't know. I don't know if clones had a weapons platform, but I'm just saying that I'm
They
sure.
probably had like
Yeah,
30 in canon that you could
yeah,
find, like,
exactly.
yeah.
So maybe that's the option. Droids. I can't really think of something off the top of my head. Like just trying to think if I ever seen a droids like use sort of any sort of gun platform. I'm certain they did or had some sort of robot equivalent, but um, we could.
Yeah, they've got a ton, man. Like, just look at the early 2000s Hasbro toys for
Fair,
episode 2 and 3. That's all you got to do.
right?
You'll see so many weird Lego sets and stuff you probably didn't even know existed. I mean, it's all fair game. So,
This is not a question, and we're right at the 2 hour mark, but I'm just going to leave this one with you. And chat, you guys can you can comment as well. Do you think we're ever going to see any, and this comes up often, any sort of beasts or creatures? And could they find their way into a faction like this where they were just sort of one-offs?
Dude, I mean, here's the thing. Yes, because they're already in the game. Tauntauns and dewbacks. Why not make more?
Yeah,
I
like
mean, what are the Acklay, like the three creatures from the Geonosis arena scene,
yeah,
and then
a rancor.
Obi. Oh, yeah, a Rancor, sure.
Yeah,
Do it, man. A Bantha and some Tusken Raiders, like that would be awesome.
Wampa.
Um, yeah, and why couldn't any of it synergize with the clone? That's you know what? There it is. The clones and the droids, they need a creature trooper.
Fair.
They need a creature trooper. Like it's especially clones. Like they're riding creatures in some of the episodes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Let's
that's
see it.
that seems okay. There we go. There's your third.
Yeah,
There's your third
a
core.
blurg.
Yeah, Blurk, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. I mean, when we talked about units coming out with companions, Mando when he eventually comes out comes with Baby Yoda. Like it's
Oh,
that's
of
that's his
course.
companion for sure. So just sticking down that road.
I'm I'm curious to see how strong that character is going to get over the next couple of seasons. Is he just going to be like Super Jedi Yoda style and just get way too strong? We'll
Um,
see. It'll be interesting.
if I can call for one thing in Scum and villainy faction, if you will, I'm just using that phrase. I would definitely love to see like an IG-88 or IG unit come out
Oh
as
yeah,
like just
yeah.
add it into whatever it's programmed for whatever you need it to do.
It's just spinning around, shooting in all directions.
Yeah,
Give it Arsenal too. Yeah, like
yeah,
that'd be awesome
it would be awesome, and it could
for sure.
definitely fit right. It can fit with that. It has no faction affiliation.
Hmm.
You've
Hey
given
man,
it a task, a protocol, and here you go.
okay. First of all, IG units are in the Clone Wars show, so
Right.
that's a thing.
Yep.
Also, double bounty's an Empire thing. Why can't double bounty be a CIS thing? Give me another bounty hunter
Mm-hmm.
to run with CAD. Come on,
Yep.
but give me a cheap commander for CIS first, so I could run double tank, double staff lists all day.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yep.
that's what I want.
Yep. Fair enough. And while you're at it, make our 250 points just for now. So thank you.
Yeah, and Boba Fett 35.
Yeah, exactly. And give him secret mission as well. Yeah. This is, yeah, so he can just claim multiple points in a game. So fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, I think we have speculated many things. FFG will, of course, listen to all of this and
yep.
immediately start developing primarily on everything that we've said, certainly. And if they aren't,
I'll tell you what though. The one thing we are going to promise you is that when that stream drops for Gen Con, we'll be covering it. We'll be hyping it.
100%. Yeah. We'll
So,
we'll probably plan to do like a post show like immediately after the drop. So yeah, look for that for sure. So I think we got pretty much everything else taken care of. I'm going to continue working on some terrain through the week, so I will share that with you. Oh, I should mention too, on Thursday nights for the immediate future, I'm going to go back and start doing my hobby stream for the train studio. So no promises that it's going to be anything super fancy or product heavy. I might be painting a tree. I might be snow affecting some terrain pieces. But I know a few people have asked me about that. So Thursday, probably a little bit later, probably around maybe like 8 Central. I'll jump on and just do some hobby stuff. So if you guys want to pop over and just say hi, you'll see that. I'll share it on the Legion Academy channel, but it'll be underneath the train studio. And then Friday Night Fights, Joe's going to come join me again this week. He had mentioned, so we'll do some casting. But if you guys want to get some co-casting, give Joe and myself a little bit of a break and reprieve, and you want to help us co-cast, we're fine to have some people help us out with that. So if you're watching this tomorrow or whatever, just hit us up at PM, and we'll try to slot some people in.
all right. Well,
Oh,
on that note, everyone, I hope everyone has a great week and hope everyone enjoyed the show and stay safe out there. And we'll talk to you Thursday night.
all right. Thanks, guys. Cheers.